Welcome to the Onstage Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Robert. Hello, my life warriors. Welcome to the Onstage Podcast. Now, I didn't come up with that one. That's from Day In and Day Out podcast. Make sure you go to his podcast and listen to it. And also, another one, Kylie Montagne, the youngest podcaster. She is like 15, I believe, and she's also on number 61 podcast, Talk of Fame. So I mentioned two podcasts now. Today, we actually have a special guest, and her name is Nikki Naghavi, and she's a well-known violinist. You might have seen her on Instagram. And she does a lot of playing. Like, she can play Madonna tune on her violin, and she can probably do anything on her violin. And I actually really think that's pretty extraordinary. And we'll bring her in. So it's getting to be spring weather right now, especially where I reside, and I don't think you can see my mouth. So put this somewhere. Okay, there we go. And so she was born in Dallas. And she currently studies at the New England Conservatory of Music with Ayano Ninomiya. And in 2018, Nikki had solo debuts with the Baylor Chamber Orchestra and the Plano Symphony Orchestra, and won third prize at the Lynn Harrell Competition. And I will let her tell you who she is and her background as soon as she pops on here. She says she's going to come around 12:30 after her violin instruction. So she should be here in a couple of minutes, 12:31. So she should be here in about a few minutes, yeah. But she was supposed to be our guest on the podcast on March 12th, and some sort of scheduling problem or whatever. Maybe she will tell you that, but I don't know if she's going to do that. But apart from that, yes. So let's wait for Nikki to show up. Her violin instruction is very important, so hopefully she will pop right in. And once she pops right in, I will bring her in. So in the meantime, there's here it says in 2019 she toured Europe as principal second violin with the National Youth Orchestra of the USA and was selected as a collegiate ambassador for Boston Symphony Orchestra. So that's pretty good. So, okay, Nikki, we're waiting for you. And once she pops in, I will bring her in, as I mentioned before. How are you all? Is everything working out for you this weekend? Although it's only Saturday afternoon, Eastern Standard Time here in Toronto. And if you're in maybe Berlin, or you're in places where you're 6 hours ahead, then already it's 6:30, 7 o'clock. So once we get into summer weather, which, hey, I can't believe it's actually April 2nd right now. So I'm going, wow, April 2nd. Will you believe that? All right, so just got to wait for Nikki. Sorry. I'm pretty sure she's running a little late in some way. She said that her lesson ends at 12:30. So she said she'd pop right on in. So it's going to be a little late for her. Hopefully she turns up, because I'm pretty sure you don't want me to keep talking on my own here. I've never done a podcast where I was supposed to have a guest on the show. They don't show up, and then I'm supposed to spend the next hour talking. I don't know if that's possible for me. So apart from that, let's see if there's something else we can talk about. So if you go and you hit subscribe button for more content and more guests, we are going to have some fabulous guests coming up, musicians. Tomorrow is Natalie Mathis. She's a Belgian pianist. she's fantastic. You would not believe it. And hopefully, when my video works, I'll show you some piano playing. Actually, I was pretty interested when I first saw her playing piano. I can recognize a lot of piano tunes, especially if I Chopin, Mozart. I can recognize a lot of. I can tell the difference between a Prokofiev tune and a Beethoven tune, and also because I've been listening to Beethoven and I've been listening to Mozart and Chopin ever since I was 18. So I can detect even Handel's tune, but there's some that just pass me. I'm like, who's this? And they say, oh, that's Carl Jenkins. That's Carl Jenkins. He's the one that wrote that played that diamond music. And then I go to Palatine Strings, who can play a really good rendition of the Palladio Movement 3. And also, let me see what other, in regards to violins, I have an excellent violin tune here. It's called Palladio I Allegretto by Carl Jenkins, which is a good one. And then Carl Jenkins' Palladio Concerto. And an English Suite by Charles Hubert Perry. Some of these ones, like symphonies, like you ever seen the sitcom Mom? They use the actual theme of Ruslan and Lyudmila Overture, which is interesting. And so, sorry about that. Nikki will be here soon. Hopefully, she will come in to the platform. Nikki, where are you? A little late there. She said she'll be here. Let's see. I hope maybe she sent me an email telling me. Let's see. I don't see any email from her, but she'll be here soon. I have to keep you guys on the podcast long enough. Um, okay, so let's read something else about Nikki. So in 2019, she toured Europe as principal second violin with the National Youth Orchestra of the USA and was selected as a collegiate ambassador for the Boston Symphony Orchestra 2019 to 2020 season. Aside from playing the violin, Nikki enjoys traveling and exploring new cultures, as well as spending time with her friends and family, which is very important. I also found out, I believe she said she was from Serbia or Syria. No, sorry, Persia. I think she said her family was from Persia. But we'll actually, once she gets here, we'll find out. Oh, she is also co-founder of Through the Staff, an organization that provides free online music lessons to young musicians and could otherwise not afford or have access to them. That's good. We can't wait for her to show up, and then what we can do is we can discuss that. This is actually the first time we had a guest who was a little late. Hopefully, I did send her the StreamYard key code, so she's a little late here. Okay. Well, don't know what else to do. I guess we'll just wait for her. Okay, so this is very awkward. I apologize for that. I'm not able to even edit this because it's live streamed. So 12:30, she'll probably show up in about 5 minutes. So I'm gonna have to keep. Oh, there she is. All right, all right. Finally, here she is. You are late, young lady. I just told your whole story now that you don't need you now. Okay, so I apologize to everyone that Nikki's kind of late, but that's okay. That's okay. She showed up. So here she is, ladies and gentlemen, Nikki Naghavi. Hi, Nikki.
Hi, how are you?
I'm fine.
I'm so
I,
sorry about that.
that's all right. Um, I know that you were training till 12:30.
Yeah, I had this lesson, and
Yeah.
let me tell you, this is some student
Mhm.
that just keeps talking, and it's a really interesting conversation, but I was like, I really gotta go now.
I'm
But
like, yeah, it's like you'd be sitting there listening. Okay, well, I'll just let him talk about my life, and I don't have to share anything.
but yeah, how are you? It's nice to meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet you too. And I love going on to your Instagram and listening to you play.
Thank you.
Um, Oh, it's amazing. And you play Madonna, and I bet you can play Imagine Dragons probably. You can probably play Bee Gees on that thing. That's amazing. Wow, you are super. Can't believe
Like,
it.
tell me what to play, I'll play it right now.
Actually, I totally forgot that to ask you to bring your violin, and you read my mind
Here we are.
because I said, Nikki, you got to bring your violin, and suddenly I have a picture of you going, oh, someone put a flash mirror. I got to bring my violin. Yes,
Yeah,
actually, before we do that, let's get into the interview. I'm so happy that you're here.
sure.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
for joining us. You're actually, since the podcast, you're the first guest that was 10 minutes late. I think I think the latest a guest has ever showed up was literally like right on the time. I'm thinking, do I why don't I just talk about just go to her biography and just
I'm
talk
so
for like an hour and then you show up for 5 minutes. Okay, well you don't need to say anything.
Oh my gosh. No, I really apologize for
That's
that. I was
fine. That's fine. At least we got you here. You're on the platform now. I'm so happy to see you. So thank you for joining us. And so we're here to hear about your musical journey. And yes, it's so nice to meet you. So nice to talk to you. So
thank
nice to see you. Now, before we begin, can you tell our audience who you are and what were your beginnings and why you became a violinist?
Yeah, so my name is Nikki. I'm from Dallas, Texas, and I was born into a family of non-musicians. And my parents decided to kind of put me into a bunch of different things like sports, soccer, baseball, violin. I think when I saw the violin, I decided I really wanted to do that one versus like piano or anything else. Um, and so I just kind of started, and I did a bunch of things, like I said. Um, but the music is the only one that kind of stuck through everything through school and throughout my high school. Kind of, I realized it was becoming like a pretty big priority in my life to the point where I decided that I would eventually audition for a music school and try to make it a career for myself.
That's awesome. Wow. Very professional. I really like that, especially you know what you want, right?
Yeah, well,
Um,
now I question myself, do I really want this anymore? But I think it's part of the craft.
it is. And your craft is actually multi-talented, actually. Um, Nikki, I know you've worked with several genres of music, like we mentioned before that you like to play Madonna. And we also enjoy your Instagram videos of you playing. What do you think of as your musical lineage, and how does it affect the way you improvise and perform?
Oh, yeah. Oh, such an interesting question you ask. So I'm classically trained. I actually began with a very popular music learning method called the Suzuki Method, which is a lot of emphasis on listening and learning music through listening. So a ton of oral, um, like relying on your oral senses a lot and playing along with recordings, even songs that you don't know, listening to what's coming ahead. And so that kind of gave me a really great foundation along with learning a ton of music theory, just in like being able to listen to something and like being able to pick it up. That's kind of why, I said in the beginning, tell me a song and I'll play it right now. All of these covers that I do, I never look at sheet music. I'm not trying to say this to like, "Ooh, I never do," but it's because I've had such a strong learning foundation. I've been playing since I was 4. Um, but just having that kind of base of like, to be honest, classical music in terms of violin and technicality is the most challenging in my opinion in Western music. So, if you're kind of able to do the harder stuff, it makes the easier stuff a little bit easier. Like I'm not singing. That's a whole different story. So I can't sing that stuff, because that requires a whole bunch of technique there, but as far as playing it, I can kind of just listen and pick it up pretty easily.
So that means that if like we're going to test you on your knowledge, I'm going to play a piece of music and you got to play it. And the second thing is I'm going to mention to you the piece of music and you got to play it.
Yeah, sounds good. As long
Okay.
as I, like, know it from before.
Yeah,
Y
and don't worry, I'm not gonna play anything from the 40s or 50s or anything. Doesn't mean that you don't know that stuff.
No, I might know that stuff a little better than I know the things from the 21st century or
Yeah.
the yeah.
What is your biggest motivator as an artist, and what is your biggest fear?
My biggest motivator is definitely, providing access to music education to young generations, who either don't have access to it or can't afford it. And my biggest fear? I think my biggest fear wow. I don't know if anyone's ever asked me that. I never think about that. I honestly, like, I just don't really I'm not a scared person. I kind of feel like everything is possible. Um, no, I feel like I need to be a little more humble. No, my biggest fear is probably disappointing other people that rely on me, whether that's my family or friends that I've made a commitment to, or, like, a professor that I have that has a certain expectation for me. To be honest, like, my self-image concept of self-image is very important to myself, uh, for my own well-being, not to, like, be perceived in a certain way, I guess, but, yeah, I just wanna always, like, be reliable, and so probably one of my biggest fears is losing that.
Or showing up at a very important appointment 10 minutes late?
Okay, to be fair, I did not know that this was live, and you said, "You can just come after 12:30 sounds
Actually,
good."
you can, I know, but, um, I'm glad you're here, so that's great. So, now why did you wanna be a violinist? What about why not a pianist or
Oh
a
my gosh.
flautist, or why don't you pick up the classical guitar and start
I
playing it?
I think just 'cause I saw it in the store and it looked the prettiest to me, I didn't really look at
Wow.
anything else. That's
I
it,
think
the very honest answer.
I've seen some really good-looking, violins, like ones that I don't know if you ever heard of Bond and the Palatine Strings,
Oh, no.
and another group, and they're all consisting of girls, is Amadeus is another group consisting of girls. And in each of these, I don't wanna say girls who play the violin, one of them in all these groups, Palatine Strings, Bond, Amadeus, one of them plays, believe it or not, a cello, but it's but not shaped like a cello. It's got this strange kind of looks like kind of like a piece of glass or whatever. It's specifically made, customized. Now your violin is just a regular violin, but um,
Is this like an electric cello maybe?
yeah, I think it might be electric cello. But how about you? How about you? How many violins do you have?
Well, the one currently that I play on is on loan from the Virtue Foundation.
Mhm,
So that's kind of scholarship based. I don't own it or anything, but I play on it for 2 years. So I have my own violin,
mhm.
right here actually, just in case I need a second violin. Otherwise, it'd usually be back in Dallas. The reason why it's here is because there tends to be a lot of, like, instrument problems in Boston in the cold winter months. So when it cracks and I have to leave it in the luthier store for a month and a half, I need to have another instrument to play on. Um,
Now,
so,
you were mentioning about not letting people down. If someone asks you, "I want you to play this," and you don't know it, what do you do?
well, I mean, that's not like an intentional, like, well, what do you mean?
Like
Like,
what? Okay,
either I learn it or
what if I wanted you to play Moonlight Sonata 1 on the violin, movement 1?
well, I believe that's a piece for piano. So it's
Yeah,
actually impossible to
but
violin, but I
I
could play
nice. Excellent. I like that, Nick. Yeah, yeah, that's very good that you have a good ear there. Um, I'm a singer, I'm a tenor, but I wanted to play the violin at some point in my life. So what if I want to get a violin, what accessories do I need?
You're gonna need most typically, and these are sold in like packages a lot of the times, a shoulder rest, which is this kind of like
It looks
padded
like it,
thing you
yeah.
can add, right? So this kind of slides on and off easily. You can also buy it separately. There's a lot of different variations that are comfortable for certain people. The violin will always come with a chin rest,
The
which
chin.
is obviously where you place your jaw. Strings are always attached to the bridge as well, so that's really easy. The bow will usually come, a case, and then what you need especially is rosin, which is this crystallized tree sap that you brush onto the hairs of the bow. You know, the hairs are actually horsehair,
Hmm.
for anyone who doesn't know. And then that gives it a kind of like hold, a grip on the string when you're bowing, and that helps with the sound a little bit. But besides that, maybe like a rag to clean off the strings after you're done playing every day.
And
Yep.
if your strings get kind of messed up with grease or something, does it
Mhm.
affect the sound?
Yeah, it does. I mean, if they're not clean, then it definitely affects the sound. What's going on is that um, so the the horsehair is rubbing against this like metallic string, right? And it's actually very important that the horsehair stays intact because if you add grease to that, like human hands or anything, or just even overplaying it,
Hmm.
um, if you look microscopically at the hairs, they're like in the perpendicular direction, tiny little claws that are reaching out.
Oh,
And
wow.
so each of these claws is what's grabbing the string and creating that vibration. And so, over time, these claws get worn out, so they don't have as much grip and they don't create as much resonance as before when they're fresh.
Yeah, and you got to have a good violin that has a good resonance because you don't want to have it sound like when you're doing a performance. You don't want to have it have this really bad sound. It's like why didn't you clean your violin? I told you to.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but I was going to ask you about Rosin as well. Do
Mhm.
you have to use the Rosin? Is there something else that you can use if you don't have that?
I don't know that there is, and
Mhm,
you can play, like, you can still create sound on the
mhm.
violin. It just won't be as good or clear of a sound.
Do you think someone like not Yehudi Menuhin, Yitzhak Perlman? Do you think he does a lot of rosin sapping on his violin? Because it
Yeah,
sounds really good.
yeah, so, there's like kind of a golden ratio of, like, the amount of rosin you wanna have on your bow. So if you over rosin, that can also be something bad.
Well, they say in pool, because I used to be a pool shark, they would say chalk, chalk, chalk. Because the more
Yeah,
chalk you put on it, the better you can get a grip on the balls, and then
exactly.
you'll be able to get the balls in where you want it. So I guess with a violin, you have to like it's like taking care of a car, or you're taking care of a child. Someone might say violin is like your child, and you want to make sure that you're going to do a performance. You're going to make sure that the rust is put on there, new strings are on there, everything's clean, and
Mhm.
that when you play it, it sounds good. But is there ever chance that when you do take that violin and you do all this, and then you're playing, it sounds good, you put it in the case, you take it out, you're about to start playing, and it sounds terrible, and you're like, I just checked it before I left. What's going on here? You
Yeah,
ever-
that can weather sometimes can make that effect.
Mhm,
Like a lot of times you'll put your violin down for just a couple minutes,
mhm.
or maybe move into like an air conditioned room or a heated room, and suddenly like your peg slips, right? So the whole like string uncoils, and then you have to retune it and everything. It sounds horrible. But they're all like very easily fixable issues.
Well, that's cool. So, what are the strings on the violin? Can you give us a little lowdown on what the strings are?
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, is there like a share screen? function because I can kind of draw it out if that works.
Oh,
I mean, there is, right? It shows that there is. Like, I'm wondering if I can do it.
you can share. Well, if you have like, you know what?
Oh, I need like slides.
You need slides. I think these are photos or whatever. I haven't used the slides yet.
Sure. Okay.
Um,
I'll just explain on my violin. No
yeah,
worries.
why not? Sure.
Um, so the violin is made up of 4 strings, and so we're starting at G, lowest string, deepest one. And we have D, and we have A, and we have E. For anyone who knows music at all, you will know that the musical alphabet ranges from A to G and just repeats over and over again. And so each of these strings are exactly 5 notes apart from each other, right? It's all a proportional distance. And the way you alter or you play notes in between each of those strings is you add your fingers to the appropriate string that you're trying to play on. And the combinations of these fingers and placement creates the different notes in the scale, in a musical scale.
Could you take the chin rest, change it to the other side, and play with your other hand?
Yeah, you can. You can totally reverse the whole thing. You'd also then want to change the order of these strings,
That's what I was thinking. Yeah. Okay.
right? The bridge a little bit, switch that around. But yeah, you totally can. Actually, so I work for this company called Trala, and our CEO is a violinist, but just kind of for fun and to, it's really important for us to have a sense of community. Um, he pledged that he would turn his whole violin setup around and learn it on the other side so that he can be there and like in the shoes of someone who's just coming to the instrument for the first time. I thought that was so interesting. Because it's like the jobs of what our left and our right hand do are so different on the violin. I mean, I think we're even using different sides of our brain for different tasks on the instrument. And so to switch that around just really messes it up. You'd think it's easy, but it's really not. But
Well,
yeah.
have you ever? It's one gentleman who can play the violin with his feet because he was born without arms.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've
Um,
seen that.
there's this issue. There's this doctor who, like, when we look out of our eyes, the brain basically it turns the image upside down because we actually see upside down, and it's the brain that turns everything upside up. So what one guy did, I think he was a doctor, whatever, or a scientist, he built these special glasses that when you put it on, everything's upside down. So he lived and worked and ate for a whole week upside down. And
Wow.
then when he took the glasses off to see normally, like you and I, he didn't even know what to do. He was reaching for something to the left, and he didn't know where it was, and it took him so long to just retrain his brain back. And that's different. That's interesting with the brain. Like, so if I wanted to learn the violin, would it take me very long to learn something like, let's see, something like this one?
Um, well, it would take you like, you know, at the end of the day, you're a musician, so you know this. Like, there's quantity kind of learning and there's quality kind of learning, right? So that requires some techniques that you won't learn in the very beginning. But really depending on what kind of speed you're willing to go and if you want to build like a really nice foundation or not, you can learn that definitely within a year. Um, but it's like typically like I wouldn't have my students played that song within their first year, even if, we could work to that level just for the long-term goal.
Well, you give violin instruction. What is the first one that you get everyone to play? Mary Had a Little Lamb, or
It's Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, actually.
okay.
Yeah.
And once they can play that, you lead them to the next highest level.
Yeah, so I mentioned the Suzuki Method that I was learning. This is also
Okay.
like a series of books that's like in a very specific order. So usually I'll have most of my students learn with this book series, and there's just a list of songs within there that I think is in a really theoretical order that kind of teaches you a new skill every single song, but it's a skill that's very appropriate to follow the last skill that you just learned.
That's interesting. So you teach a lot of children? Like, what's the youngest to the oldest?
Yeah, I've taught a 4-year-old. I was teaching a 4-year-old in person over COVID. Since I've come back to Boston, I've had to pass them on to someone else. Right now, I think my youngest, and it kind of ranges because again, I teach with that Trala app that I mentioned. So sometimes I'll get students that are like as young as 7. Actually, I had a 9-year-old today, but I've had a few 6 and 7-year-olds in the past few weeks as well. I also teach as old as like 75-year-olds, so it's a
Well,
huge range.
really? Maybe I should start learning the violin. I always thought I was too old.
No, never. And I'm not just saying that because 'cause I'm a teacher, it's true. Truly, maybe the brain isn't as spongy as it is when you're like, a baby, but it's so possible to learn. Yeah, I have students who are I'd say my average student is in their, like, late 30s or late 20s, um, but they're just having a good time and enjoying it. So, yeah, it's a great time. It's taught me a lot too because I have given so many lessons to so many people from around the world. I used to be kind of on this, like when I was working for the Trala app in the very beginning, they had from I guess from what I can remember, kind of an onboarding lessons package that they would offer people before they offered private lessons at all. It was just kind of like, if you join this app, you're gonna get 4 free private instruction lessons, and so I would teach so many first time lessons, and I mean, I met people from all over the world. It was amazing.
Are the colored violins aimed at children any good?
Um, Not really. They're playable, they make sound that anyone is, going for. I could play on it and it would, anyone can play it on it, it'll sound fine, but it's not like a Stradivarius, if you've heard of that maker.
Stradivarius is, I think it's like 3.5 million, whatever.
Yeah, and they can get so expensive up
Yeah,
there for sure.
yeah. Can I learn the violin on an electric violin?
Yeah, you can. It's tuned the same exact way. Some of the spacing might be different, the weight is gonna be different, but definitely, like, especially in the beginning, you're going for certain physical concepts that as long as the shape is there, it's definitely learnable. Mhm.
Well, that's good. So, what is a good beginner violin for a child or an adult? Is there a certain
Um,
company name? Like,
yeah,
Tim
yeah,
Ludgate makes the best classical guitars.
okay. I really like Fiddler Shop. Um, they have They have, like, different violins, and they also have the CEOs playing on each of these instruments in, like, YouTube videos underneath, explaining a little bit about them. So I think it makes the customer feel a lot safer in what they're buying because it's a significant investment for a lot of people, to buy an entire violin outfit. But it comes with everything you need, a lot of, like, care instructions, and the customer service is great. I also have an affiliate link with them if you wanna buy something, but besides that, I'm a customer of, them myself, so really, really highly acclaimed company. Fiddler Shop, they're based in Miami.
Fiddler Shop. Okay, send me the link. I'll include that in the description. I saw this guy on YouTube. He
Mhm.
started playing from a large violin, and he just started playing the same thing on smaller violins to the point where he had this really small one, and he was playing the same. Is it easier? What kind of size violin is it easier to play? Would it be easy to play on a small one like this?
That's a really interesting question. No, actually, for most adults, and I'm pretty short, I'm like 5'2", so I'm a very
Wow.
small person, but we use what's called a full-size violin, which it's because of your arm length, you need a certain amount of like bend here and finger distance that's comfortable for an adult's hand. It's actually the smaller violins are built for younger students who are learning, right? Also, the bigger violins, because adults play on them, they're a lot better quality made and just like a lot more option as far as purchasing one. But I had a student today who this was her first lesson and it was on Zoom. And
Wow.
this 9-year-old who came to the lesson with a full-size violin, and it was way too big for her. Like her arm
Wow.
couldn't even reach like the finger place barely. And her parents didn't know because no one is a musician, and you know you're not expected to even realize, oh, there's different size violins if you're, not really familiar with that stuff or have seen it. So I kind of like explained, yeah, no, like this is going to be really difficult for her to play as she grows. Naturally, will upgrade to a bigger and bigger size every time it's necessary. But it ranges from all the way from 1/64th size violins to full size violins. And so it's like 1/64th, 1/32nd. 1/64ths are tiny. They're like not common at all. But then it's 1/32nds, 1/16th, 1/8, 1/4, half, 3/4, and then full.
Why do you suppose a lot of violins are expensive? Not just the Stradivarius. Is it the wood? Is it the
Yeah,
strings?
it's a great question. I'm trying to figure that out too. Actually, no, I was listening to a video from a famous instrument dealer in New York, and he said that pricing of violins are solely based on the name of the maker. So if it's a Strad or a Guarneri or Viom, something like that, the who has played on it before, and the year which it was made. I think it's the year which it was made. I don't remember. But it's these three things. It's really kind of just like buying into a designer violin because I think that technology is advanced enough these days to the point where if there's a really, really nice violin, you should be able to replicate it. The exact measurement, the exact same wood, or at least like good substitute to create a really nice sound. So there's a lot of really good factory made violins these days. And that's cheaper because it's less manpower. It's just like these old ones that are, you know, not easily accessible or in museums or really, really rich people houses. That it's like a collector's kind of thing now to have an old violin. Um, I'm trying to think. Yeah. Like the difference between a $100,000 violin and
Whoa.
a $1 million violin sonically is not going to be that much, even though the price is insanely different. Now, between a $300 violin and like a $5,000 instrument, that's a huge big because one of them is like very much like a student made violin. The other one is like pretty advanced or intermediate kind of level.
Well, I've seen some pretty interesting looking violins that are made with a sort of interesting shape. Maybe a lot of them made of steel, maybe fiberglass. Is it
Mhm.
the weight of the violin that is it the music that comes from the weight of the violin, or is it just the way it's made, or?
It's the way it's made. It's a type of wood, like you mentioned earlier. Um, and it's also like there's this, I don't know if I think it's true that like the more violin is played on, the better it sounds. And so like these really old violins that have been played on for so long end up like kind of having like a sweeter sound or just like, more timeless, charming feel to it. Um, a lot of these like newer instruments, for example, one that's made from carbon fiber
Mhm.
it's just gonna be a lot more durable. It's gonna be cheaper materials, so cheaper to buy, and it's really great for learning. I would definitely recommend any, violin for learning just because you can up to a certain point wouldn't be able to tell the difference if you're playing on that versus a Strat, for example, just because you're still learning how to create a sound from it.
If I learn to play the violin, can I play the cello too? Is it
Yeah.
the same instrument, sort of?
There's a lot of similarities. For example, the proportions of the strings,
Yeah.
how you place your fingers, but like the cello is a huge version of the violin with different strings, with different spacing. You're playing it down here versus up here, so the bow grip is different. But you get like the concept of a lot of things. Like I could say that I could like coach or like teach a cellist, like a pretty like intermediate kind of beginner-ish cellist, even though they would play the instrument a lot better than I would just because I haven't built those physical practices into my body.
So, all right. Now, how do I know when if I buy a violin, is it fully with the strings and all? If I
Yeah.
buy a violin that doesn't have the strings, like a garage sale
Mhm.
or something, and I think I want to do my own spin on it and kind of build my own, what kind of strings do I put on the violin? Would I know immediately the type of strings to put on there? Like, are there specific strings?
Yeah, well, I mean, there's like different grand strings. The classic Western violin is tuned GDAE, like I mentioned, but like you could literally put anything on it and it would just be different. It wouldn't maybe it wouldn't there's such minute little things um with the violin that make these tiny differences that aren't always audible to everyone's ear. But um I'm trying to think. Like there's, $15 strings and then there's $85 strings. So
Is that
it
real horsehair to fake horsehair? Is that how the pricing
no,
goes?
no, no, this is strings of the violin, right? Not strings or hair of the
Okay, I
bow,
see what you mean. They're
right,
totally different. Okay.
yeah. Well, the horsehair though, the hair is a hair is a hair. They don't charge extra for that anywhere that I've seen.
I saw a violinist play the violin with a pen. He wanted to prove that you couldn't play a violin. You didn't have to play a violin with a bow. So he took a pen and he started playing the violin, and he still got the same sound,
Was it the same sound? A
the
pen?
same type of sound, but not the sound that he was getting.
I see.
You could tell it made music,
Yeah.
but it was a pen. It wasn't like horsehair or anything.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
like, I could do the same thing with, like, a pencil, and you would hear some because all it is a string vibrating against something, right? Horsehair, in this case, tends to be the best suited to get a certain sound, but if you hit anything, like, if you pluck the string of a guitar, you don't need a bow to play that or, all you're doing is making it vibrate a certain way. You could pluck it with your finger, you could pluck it with a hairbrush. I don't know, there's a ton of different things. Um, so yeah, you can get a sound just as long as the string is vibrating somehow.
is it proper etiquette to be playing a violin with a bow where the strings are dangling?
No, and so as a violinist, every once in a while you want to get your bow hairs replaced because they will naturally tend to break either due to like playing a lot or just the tension starting to loosen a little bit within the edges of the bow. And so that causes less sound, right? If you have less hairs to play on, your sound is going to be smaller. So every once in a while you want to get what's called a rehair, and then they will it's just like a better sound for your bow to create on the violin. And usually if the hairs are dangling a little bit, like those you might have seen some videos of like super crazy like performances, and then there's like hairs hanging off the side, you can just rip it off and keep going.
Really? So can you actually literally get the same sound in the violin if you had a bow with only two hairs on it?
No, not at all. No,
So
because
that case you would bring an extra one with you probably.
right. But you don't typically break all of the hairs in a performance.
I know in the guitar you would break a string and like oh gotta get that string replaced.
Right. Yeah. I mean, there's been a lot of performances where, like, imagine a soloist with an orchestra. If they break one of their four strings, then yeah, they can't play because they need to use all those strings for the piece. In that case, they'll just very quickly and discreetly trade violins with like the concertmaster or someone in the orchestra until someone can get another violin that's not the soloist, the main focus of attention.
But isn't it appropriate just to have an extra violin on hand? Like everyone should have an extra something. I don't have to say, "Hey, conductor, can I use your violin?" Why not just say, "Oh, my violin broke," and not even miss a
If
beat?
you have like some really important event, it might be a good opportunity to bring that, but it's a hassle to like for someone who is important enough to need, be playing a concert so important that they should have an extra violin. Um, that violin would probably be like very expensive or like very valuable. And so, like traveling with two instruments, it's just hard. When you're in a plane, it's already hard enough for these airlines to get you to let you put it on as a carry on. So having two is kind of another hassle.
What about a violin that comes in pieces? Is that possible? Are there violins that actually put together violins?
No, there's not, unless there's some electric versions of that, which I'm not sure of.
Oh, wow. Okay, how do I tune a violin?
So there are a lot of apps that
Mhm.
tell you if you need to turn the screws a different direction or not. What's going on is the violin, like the tighter you pull it, the higher the frequency, looser the lower the frequency, kind of like a rubber band if you have ever plucked one of those, kind of pulling it at the same time. Um, and so the string is coiled around this kind of screw that's in the top that you twist a certain direction. And if you twist it just a little bit, it's going to make a difference in the tuning already. And then you can use these apps to let you know, like, where's kind of the golden ratio or the golden range to be in.
But if you're turning, just like tuning a piano, turning a guitar, they just use your hands and your fingers but when you're turning a violin, when you tune the violin, you're going like chick, chick, you're flicking the strings with your finger and say, okay, it's in tune. But as soon as you put a bow to it, it doesn't give you the same resonance, doesn't give you the same sound, does it?
It gives you the same pitch, though, the same
Mhm.
frequency of sound, yes. Yeah, and
Okay.
you can also tune while using a bow. So they're both options. Yeah, as long as you get the same frequency though, that's all that matters.
Okay. I see some people play the violin and they don't use all of the bow. Why is that?
For different characters in the sound,
Okay.
intentionally as a musician, you can choose to, for example, play really soft or play really loud, use less bow, use less hairs even by turning it onto its side, the bow. This just gives you a ton of different characters. Like you can play something that sounds really creepy, you can play something that sounds super loud and bombastic. Right? So there's like a whole range of characters that you can achieve just by altering tiny different things in the violin.
Can I go to a YouTube channel and learn to play the violin on my own, or do I need specific instruction? Like, do I need to call Nikki Naghavi and say, "Hey, I need some lessons. Can you teach me how to play Mary Had a Little Lamb or something?"
I would definitely recommend that having someone who can give you one-on-one feedback,
Okay.
specifically based on what you're doing physically is the best option to learn fast and with a great foundation, but it's definitely possible to learn at least some of the basics online, either through an app or on YouTube.
Well, that's good. So, have you ever thought of taking up another form of instrument, or is it just, I'm going to just learn the violin? That's who I am. I'm Nikki Violin Girl. I'm going to play the violin until I'm 100. Or have you thought in your mind, okay, let me try something else? Have you ever thought of using, like playing a cello for a bit and deciding piano, maybe learn singing, you know?
Not seriously, but I have, like, voice for non-major class right now, so I'm singing a little bit, but definitely not for anything professional.
Okay, that's good. So, what would a particular day like be for you?
Okay, well, this week I have been sleeping at 10 p.m. every night and waking up at 6 a.m. So I'll wake up at 6. It's still dark outside. I'm get ready and go to the gym for about an hour or so, come back, practice, or sorry, come back, shower, and practice an hour and a half or an hour and I eat a little bit of breakfast
Wow.
before I go to orchestra, which starts at 9. My orchestra will be 3 hours, so 9 to 12. And usually I have a class after that, like a history class or some other liberal arts class. Throughout the day, I'll have meetings. I'm an RA here at school. So I live in the dorms, which is really convenient. At the same
Mhm.
time, I have like responsibilities of an RA. It's almost like a part-time job. I teach a lot, as I've mentioned. Obviously, I perform. I have gigs in and around Boston, along with being a full-time student at a university. So it's kind of like I my Google Calendar is like very packed and to the minute. Um, so when I have time to like an hour in between one class to another class and I need to eat lunch, I'll do that. I'll grab some, bring it to my room, like make some marks in my music or whatever I need to do. I answer a lot of emails. I'm also active on social media, so that takes a while out of my day too, of like
That I
planning
know.
stuff like
You're
that.
everywhere. Yeah. That's
So yeah,
awesome.
no, yeah.
That's awesome. Does playing the air violin, is that the same thing? I mean, like, can you, without using your violin to play something, can you do it like in the air and know what to do with your fingers?
Yeah, yeah, you can. And actually, it's so funny you say that. There's a specific type of practice method called mental practicing, which kind of takes that
Hmm.
into play. And to really like be able to conceptualize so well, to like feel every little thing, even feel if you've made a mistake in the air. That's like a really good way of practicing. Um, it really captures a lot of those little details, but it works. Obviously, you can't perform with an air violin, but you can definitely practice without one.
Do you, I don't want to say this the wrong way. I'm not going to say that. Okay, I'll say it this way. Just take it the way I mean it. Do you sell yourself to play the violin so that you can get paid for it? Like Nikki Naghavi is available for parties and places
Yeah,
like that. Yeah.
yeah, I do. On my website, which is linked right here, I have like inquiry sheets and contact details. I play a lot of weddings, different corporate events, lunch, concert, gigs, stuff like that. So yeah, absolutely. As a student, because I don't have time and availability to take a full-time salaried job, what I do right now for work is I freelance a lot, which is consists of that. Same with lessons and stuff. If you go on my website, you can buy like lesson packages to like redeem on my website, just exactly like that. So yeah, I do. A lot of classical musicians kind of see that as like a in hmm, how do I say this? Now I'm having trouble. As like a disrespect to classical music or like the traditional old art. But I believe more in flexibility and like being innovative with a craft that's already struggling to survive. So I think as best as you can, market it and market yourself. That's what you got to do to survive.
Am I correct in saying that you're Persian?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Yeah, I saw that in one of your biographies there, and when I was stalking you, so I understand you, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, and I had something else to say. Gee, what is that? Before we play the music game here. Um, yes. Shoot. What was it? Oh, yes. So we have a violinist here. I want to ask if what she charges an hour is what you usually charge an hour to play. If someone asks you, can you play the violin for an hour? What do you charge?
Well, that depends because um, yeah, it really depends on everything. Like, am I playing by myself? Am I playing with other people?
By
Are you
yourself?
providing the music? Am I providing the music? What kind of music? How much time am I going to have to spend learning it? how much, like, how far away is this venue you want me to play? It's totally different. It really depends on each case, each, like, yeah, situation. I couldn't really give one clear answer.
Okay.
It's not like an easily sellable, like, package, like, "You do this is how much it costs." And I'm also, like, I'm pretty new to this field, so I'm still figuring out myself, what should I be charging, and I'm learning from every experience that I have a little more about how to market the entire thing.
Well, she charges 200 an hour.
Oh, you're a violinist?
The violinist here, yeah, in this town. I don't know if that's fair. With everything you said, maybe that's why it's 200, because maybe they ask her to play certain things like Chopin or Mozart or
Mhm.
violin concertos or something.
Right.
Um, like some violin concertos, like 10. I think I've heard a violin concerto which is like 15 minutes, I think, and some of them are pretty short. Um, would you know this one? Can you play that bit?
Yeah, I don't know what it is, but I can play it.
Wow, you just played that by ear.
Mhm.
I'm impressed. Okay. Well, again, I'm gonna play this one.
Sure.
Wow, you played that by ear. That's amazing.
Thank you.
That is excellent. Okay, so I'm gonna read out the name of a tune. I know some of these are going to be like maybe piano, whatever, but I'm pretty sure you can do like a version of it. Um, Prelude and Fugue number 2 by Bach in C minor.
Okay, Bach has so many preludes and fugues that I could not tell you what that is.
Okay, well, why
Yeah.
don't I play it then?
I mean, I could play it, but,
But
like,
I guess it's meant for piano would be pretty
yeah,
difficult.
and, with a piano, not it's different from the violin, not only that they're playing notes with 2 hands, it's the range is a lot more, especially the bass range that they play with the left hand, so they have a lot lower notes than is actually physically possible to play on the violin at all, because this is our lowest note.
Okay.
Mhm.
But if you look inside a piano, like the piano is a stringed instrument, much like the cello and the violin and the cymbalum and the dulcimer are all string instruments. So if you look at a piano, you can literally probably we had a piano in our living room when I was growing up. You can literally lift up the thing and just start playing the strings in the piano.
Well, that's right, but we only have 4 strings,
Yeah.
and their string is, they have a series of set notes that you can't really alter on a piano. Here, we have these 4 strings that we can alter by placing our fingers in a different location, but then our range stops here. We can go a lot higher than a piano, like, I could go up to here,
Hmm.
that a piano
Wow.
doesn't have that note, but I can't go lower than that. It's like I mean, think it's very similar to like a soprano's range. Violin is the soprano of the orchestra.
Oh wow. Okay. Now that's right. And I forgot. I really don't have to play regular classical music. I can play just regular songs.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay. So let's
That would
let.
probably be easier for me.
Okay. So what genre do you want? You want like 2000s? You want something from the 1990s, the
Let's do
1980s,
some 70s
70s? Really?
rock. How about that?
You actually know stuff from the 70s?
I mean, like, I'm a huge Beatles fan.
Oh, Beatles. Okay.
For example, I mean, like anything. Bee Gees you mentioned earlier.
Yeah. Okay. Let me find something here because I know I have 70s here. Okay. Anything from the 70s?
Sure. I mean, I'm hoping I'll know it. I can't promise, but
Okay.
okay.
You ready?
Yeah.
Sultans of Sultans of Swing. Dire Straits.
I think that was the introduction. I think if you keep let it go, then the
Oh, okay.
yeah. I mean, I don't know, but
No.
I can play it a little bit. That was not
That's a little bit. Yeah, that's not bad.
what it was.
That's not bad. So anything from the 70s, or you don't really know? Okay.
I mean, I just gotta know the few. There's
Okay.
millions of songs out there. I just don't
How about
know.
this one?
I mean, if you tell me like, oh,
When are you gonna come down? When are you going to land?
Yellow Brick Road by Elton John. That's amazing. Oh, okay. Here's my favorite. I don't know if you remember. You ever heard of the Rubettes?
no.
Look at this one here. That's all you get. That's wonderful. It's simply by ear. It's amazing. Wow, that is amazing. Yeah. Okay. So one more because I don't want to get any of these YouTube problems with music.
That's great. Yeah.
How about this one? Oh no, that one. Bad one. How about this one? Reminiscing.
Oh, I only heard the first two words.
Okay. Wow, just playing by ear. That's amazing. Like how many years did you say that you had a violin?
16.
16. Okay.
It's been a while.
All right. So where would you find yourself maybe playing in 5, 10 years?
You know, ideally, like a big symphony orchestra, that'd be great. I'd
Yeah.
love to join. But that's kind of a far stretch because it's a huge, long audition process, and there's a lot of people looking for those jobs right now. Actually, I'm interested in like getting into real estate and maybe straying a little bit away from violin.
Are you serious? No.
No, I mean I'll keep violin too, but I can always teach and play gigs when I need to. I don't think that I will go for higher education in violin after my undergrad for sure. If I do a master's, it would be like an MBA or something. Definitely not.
Well, I know that violinists are highly paid when they're playing symphonies quite a bit, I think.
Yeah, it highly paid. There are benefits. It's a salaried position. It's like the most reliable job you
Mhm.
can have. It's just very, very hard to come by.
Oh, yeah. So if you do get the job, you just have to start with the lowest pay, I think, first.
No, I mean, depending on the role that you audition for and that you achieve, someone could come into the orchestra never having won any job or having worked for that symphony before and get the highest paid violin spot. You just have to be good enough for it and beat all the other hundreds and hundreds of applicants.
Is there like a test that violinist has to go through to see if you're worthy? Like, would someone just say, "Okay, Nikki, you're not allowed to tune this violin. You're not allowed to look at it. You're not allowed to put rosin on it. Just play it."
Um, for auditioning for an orchestra, or
Let's just say someone just says, "Here's a violin, play it. Don't bother looking at it. Don't."
well, no, because in real in a real life circumstance, there's never a time when someone would not tune an instrument or not look at it. And it makes a big difference. Like you have to get used to the instrument. It's just never like in a performance setting that would never happen. Someone can be someone who's like trained enough to be put in a position where like people can I can be flexible if I was just given a random violin and play on it. It won't be like the most practiced thing, but it wouldn't sound bad. It's just in an important situation that's never something that would happen.
Has there ever been a time when you didn't have the bow, you had to play the violin somehow?
No, there hasn't. But sometimes in pieces you can pluck your way through if you need to.
I've actually I heard a violin concerto with someone without the they just started plucking through it. I think that was part of the
Yeah, like that's written in intentionally by a lot of people.
yeah.
Yeah.
So towards the end, I have two other ones surprises. I want to see if you can play, but also oh, that's what I was going to ask you. If anyone in your family is also musical?
No, I don't have anyone. My cousin on my mom's side, she played piano. She still plays piano and she sings. My cousin on my dad's side also is a classical bassist, but like no one blood related. Well,
But
I
you're,
are blood related. I don't know.
but you're the only one that chose the violin,
Yeah.
and nobody in your history and your family tree even had the violin.
No, not the one that I had. We just got it from a store.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you intend maybe a few years? Well, you want to get into actually, we're going to talk about this is interesting. Real estate. I knew this real estate agent, and his business card had him just a photograph of him with his guitar.
Mm-hmm.
And it's sort of like, here's my business card. You want to sell your house, but also if you want me to play the guitar for you in one card. It was kind of interesting.
Yeah.
You could literally do that with a real estate license and how to get your real estate license. I still line to get my real estate get course, whatever, and it's really the stuff that you have to go through 7 days a week, and you get a percentage of that. And I can imagine you selling a house. You'd say, "Hold that, start playing the violin like celebration with a good house with a good acoustics. It's acoustics.
Right.
You have so when you play."
Mm-hmm.
Do the acoustics have to agree, or can you just play? Like I saw videos of you playing just outside.
Yeah. The sound won't travel as much, but you can play. You can play anywhere. It's not so, violin isn't classical music. The whole thing like comes across as very snobby and like, there's like a stigma of like the type of people who listen to it. It has to be in a big concert hall, has to be in Carnegie Hall, whatever. No, like you can play violin on the street, high level. You can play violin in a subway station. You can, play songs that are not classical on a primarily classical instrument, and the world will not end. It's just you're doing your thing.
Well, so I noticed that your violin is just a regular brown one. Have you ever thought of dressing it up with like stickers and stuff?
I don't think that would be very good for the varnish of it because, but yeah, no, I think I probably used to do something like that on my smaller instruments.
Well,
This one is I couldn't, but
while I was doing, sorry, go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt you there.
no, I just said this because I don't own this one. I probably shouldn't do anything like that to it.
Well, doing a little bit of research on violins, I found out that you can literally buy the chin hold. You can buy different versions of them, and you can tear it off and replace it. I
Yeah,
didn't know that. I thought it was just a permanent part of the violin, but apparently you can replace that too.
yeah, absolutely. It's just screwed on with like a metal clamp. You can definitely replace it if you want to get one that's more comfortable for your chin.
But some of them don't have the padding. A lot of them, see, they're just regular plastic.
Yeah.
Is it comfortability that makes you play better?
It's just, it's a matter of like how tall it is for people who have different neck lengths, and it's a matter of material sometimes makes a difference. The shape of it is really what makes the most difference.
Does playing with other violinists, if one of them falters, does it affect your playing?
Yeah, it definitely does. I mean, a lot of people at my school have much nicer violins than I do, but if they were to play on mine, they would still sound fantastic, but it would just be a different sound.
And it's good to be in sync as well.
Yeah.
Does the conductor and maestro, is the violinist the first person that starts? Or
depends on the piece, how it's orchestrated.
is it a particular difficult piece that you can't play? Would you refuse to play?
No, I don't think so.
Well, very confident. Very modest.
I mean, like, I'm not promising that I would play anything well, but I would never like refuse.
Who do you want to what famous violinist or famous musician or whatever would you want to be playing with? Would you want to play with?
Oh my gosh, there's just too many to think of. One of my favorites is Midori. She's a really great violinist. She's a Japanese lady. I think she teaches at University of Southern California. Last I heard, I don't remember. She's a performance soloist around the world. She's fantastic.
Okay, let me see if okay, do you know who Niccolo Paganini is?
Yes, he's a composer.
Okay, good. Jascha Heifetz?
Yes, he's a violinist.
Wow, you're good. Now, trying to get her on the podcast, but I don't know. She's kind of busy these days. Hilary Hahn.
Yeah.
You heard of her?
Of course, yes.
How about Fritz Kreisler?
Mm-hmm.
Really, you know these people?
Yes.
Itzhak Perlman, of course. We all know who he is.
No. Yeah.
Famous. Here's one I mentioned before, and he passed away like 20 years ago, but he was good. Yehudi Menuhin.
Mm-hmm.
David Oistrakh.
Another violinist.
Wow, did you do like a study upon all these violinists in case someone like me would ask you? Isaac Stern.
Yes, another violinist. They're all a violin. I mean, it's like if you're an artist, you know Monet, you know Picasso, you know all of these really famous because they're inspirations for you to learn from. So
that's true. I'm a tenor, but there's some people that go out and I'm thinking, well, I never heard of this tenor, I never heard of that tenor. But there's thousands and thousands of sopranos, tenors, violinists, you name it.
Yeah. And I'm not saying I would know every single one, of course, but these are like some really huge names.
Let me see if I can test you with this one. He played the violin as a busker on the street, and he was playing some really wild. Oh my goodness, you know that? Yes, Joshua Bell. You are good. You are good. Nicola
Benedetti.
I'm just surprised. I gotta stump you here. Janine
Johnson.
Midori, you already know. Nigel
Kennedy.
and Sophie
Mutter. Mutter.
Julia.
Fisher.
You know them all. Okay. One more. Oh, everyone knows. Lindsay.
Sterling.
Yeah. Wow. But it's funny, but someone would mention to me the name of a tenor.
Mhm.
I wouldn't even know they were a tenor. I would just say, "Oh, who is this? A chef?" And they said, "No, that's a famous tenor or whatever." Okay, now I'm going to play another one here and see if you can play it.
Mhm.
You only need to play that part.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't stump you. You are really good. Um, yeah, there's no point playing anything else. You just know how to play it. Wow, that's very good. I wouldn't give it up if I were you. I would keep going. Like in 10, 20 years from now, I don't want to be buying a house and find out that the Nikki Naghavi is my real estate agent. And I'm like, Nikki, who's your violin? Oh, I gave that up 20 years ago. I'm like, no, no.
No, I definitely won't give it up.
I will play the house if you will play.
That's
Okay, one more. Uh, this one. That's a violin.
the guitar.
That's it. That's all you need to play. I can, yeah, that's unbelievable. You can just play by ear like that. Yeah. I wish I was like you. Not maybe like there's some musicians who've learned 90 songs. Like my vocal coach, she learned 90 songs that she can just rattle off.
Mhm.
For you, it's like I just have to play a song, you know how to play it. You don't even think twice. Or I mention the name of violinist and first name and you know who they are. That's amazing.
Thank you.
Wow.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much for your time today. It's been so fun.
Yeah, you're very welcome. And I'm actually pretty happy that yeah, I just wanted to know everything about a violin because I wanted to take violin lessons when I was younger. And now that you're telling me your oldest is 75, then maybe I might just start picking up the violin. The only thing is, in my apartment here, when I first start playing, all I'll hear is like, and they'll say, "Who's killing a cat in here?
Not with me.
Are you killing Hannah?" No, the cat.
No, I'm confident in saying that I can teach someone. I wouldn't recommend this as the first lesson,
Mhm.
but if it was really like life or death, if I was in person with someone, I can teach them how to play Twinkle Twinkle Little Star in less than half an hour.
Wow, yeah.
Yeah.
I might take you up on it. So I just have to go to NikkiNaghaviViolin.com
Mhm.
and find some lessons on there.
From there, you can find my scheduling link through Calendly and set up a time. Absolutely.
Yes, and so you will not see the last of me. Ha ha!
Sounds good.
Awesome. See if there's any other questions I have. I think I might have gone through the. Oh yeah, one more. The type of wood that a violin is made from. Do you know that different woods give different sounds?
I don't think too much, no. I don't think they do.
What is that, birch?
I couldn't tell you, honestly.
No. Aha! I stumped you.
There you go.
I
Yeah.
knew it. That's it. No more. Well, I really appreciate it. And I was just teasing you when you said that you were 10 minutes late, whatever. And I'm glad you showed up because you said that you were going to be late. So it's okay. No big deal. I really appreciate that. So we're going to end this stream. And I
Mhm.
hope that later on we can connect again.
Absolutely.
I really appreciate that, Nikki. And so what I want to do is I'm going to try to bring up this thanks for watching message, and then I'm going to end the stream. So
Okay.
let's say goodbye, everyone. Goodbye, everyone.
Hi, everyone.
Naghavi, you can't stump her. So she's like, Nikki can't stump me, Naghavi. Don't worry, I'll be watching you on I'll be watching you on Instagram. I'll be watching you. Oh yeah, that's right. Play that. Every
What?
breath you take.
What is that?
By the Police.
Oh, the one who was just playing?
Every breath you take, every step you make, I'll be watching you.
Oh, I forget the melody to it. I've just listened to it. And next
Okay,
time.
that's fine. That's fine. Next time, sure. Thank you very much, Nikki, for actually bringing your violin and playing for us, and thank you for this wonderful time. We're all informed, and I'm so glad that this turned out. And you're excellent. You're wonderful. So let's say goodbye.
Bye.
Bye. Okay, so I'm gonna let you go and talk to you later. Okay.
Okay, sounds good. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks.
Bye.